Hello, welcome to this easy Windows machine. It was honestly quite an easy machine, and I think you can do it in like 6 steps max if you know how to get there. Enumeration phase was quite easy because you just find a website which has default credentials. You can upload an SFC file. It was tricky to get to know how this SFC file works or why you have to choose that one, but I'm gonna get into it. And if you get there, you have to just run an exploit and you get privilege escalation to the authority system. So first of all, if you run an mmap scan, you just see one website. There's an RPC client. You can always try it, but most of the time it's not working. It's just like this one. And then of course you also have an SMB client, which is also not working. It's just not there. So we are left with the website basically. So if we just move to the website, you can see we get some credentials. You should try like a list of 10 things like root tour, admin, and you will actually get onto a page. You can try clicking things, but you can see most of them don't work, and it doesn't really have such interesting specific information. But the firmware updates is quite interesting, as you can choose what kind of firmware you might want to upload. So I tried to upload a PHP script to sort of run a reverse shell. It didn't work because it says here our testing team will review the uploads manually and initiate the testing soon. So it's going to try to open it, and there's one file in particular which you can use. I got onto was forced authentication. This one was quite interesting because how Windows works. So when a Windows system attempts to connect to an SMB resource, it will automatically attempt to authenticate and send the credential information for the current user to the remote system. And then this, of course, is helpful for large organizations so you don't have to log in all the time. So this basically means you can set up a responder and listen for incoming connections, which is quite cool if you can set a source. Okay, so how can we do this? Well, you just browse through it, and then we have something. So SMB shares SFC file attacks is what I came up, what I sort of found. I did get some help, of course, from the write-up, but still, you can just look things up and try to find them. So I just have to create one of these files. That's the exact thing I've done. So if I look at shell.sfc, you can see we have just my IP address and the toggle desktop for the bar. And we have to just run a responder. He's running it with WRF. I'm not sure what responder WRF is. We have WPAD. R is gonna be maybe a record. I'm not seeing it. Well, okay. How we're gonna run it is just sudo responder with our W. So we have actually created a sort of WPAD rogue server so people can connect to us with the interface of tune 0 and verbose. I'm choosing verbose because I've tried this before. So it's not giving me any outputs. So if I were to start this and actually upload this file, you'll see you won't get to see the anti-lemma hash as it already knows it and just skips it, so the output is prettier. For example, if you're running this for a whole day, you don't want it to sort of record every single thing. So if it's going to run it, it's just going to show you skipping username Tony because, you know, it's already known. It's taking a while now. Did I upload it correctly? I don't know. Shell SFC, SCF, I mean. And there we go. So it says captured hash file. So what you have to do is just verbose. So it actually sort of still outputs whatever you put into it. So let's just submit it, and you can see we actually get some hashes. We actually have to save one of these and you can just crack them. You can put them into hashcat and actually sort of try to get the hash working. The thing is, John does it automatically because you have to, I think the anti-lam part, so this is Tony driver and this is something, and then this is the anti-lam part. So I'm just going to use John, and this one cracks it like almost instantaneously. You can now try to connect, of course, with a remote procedure call. The easier thing you can do is using evil WinRM, because this also allows you to upload files straight away from your machine, because it can look into the directory you've uploaded from. Well, now that we're in this user, you can actually type the flag, so user.txt, and privileged escalation isn't that straightforward, I would say, on this machine. It's just you have to know how to enumerate it. So one thing we can do is, now that we have access, actually create a sort of payload that will just scan the system for us. So it basically does the heavy lifting. And this is going to be the exact payload. We're choosing a Windows x84 interpreter reverse TCP because this is like the most used one. So I'm just using it and it works most of the time. Then we're choosing our L host and the L port, and then we have a file format of exe, and then we run shell.exe. You can name this anything you want. You can also, for example, name it kick.exe. It doesn't really matter. Just you have to sort of match these things up. Meanwhile, while this is generating, I'm just gonna have to. Right, it's done already. We're just gonna start MSF console because we have to start a listener, and you can choose, for example, MSF console. You can also start netcat, but we have to use some functions from MSF framework. So we're just gonna have to, run it through MSF console. Even though I don't think it's the prettiest tool, it still gets the job done quite quickly. And what we're gonna do if it loads, we're gonna use the exploit multi-handler. This is like a general sort of class, which we can just sort of put payloads in and whatever. So if you now look at the options, you can see we don't have anything. So set, and then we have the payload, and this is something we just set above here. So we can see it's the Windows x86 parameter per third. This is the one we're going to choose. That's the one. And then we have to set the L host as 2 and 0. If I type 2 and 0, and I think these are the options. This is all good. So we're just going to run it. And this one is going to start the listener. And now we can actually go back to our thing and upload it. So upload kick.exe. This is going to be the file. I don't think you have to do this specific thing. I'm just going to do this. I think it's prettier. Right, and now we have kick.exe. Shell is the one I used before to try and run things, but we're going to have to run kick.exe. Kick.exe like this. And if we now go back, we can see we actually got a connection back. And I think this is because it opened a connection which was already open, but it should just open up like this. And the first thing you should do is just look at like what kind of commands you can use. And for example, try some hash dumps or get UIDs so you know who you are. But what we're going to do is we're going to have to migrate to a different process so we can actually have an interactive session. Because if I run ps, which is, I think it's just our ps list, a process list or something like that, we should have our kick.exe somewhere. Could also still be shell.exe. Right, okay. The thing is, you should be 0 and you want to change to a 1. You can just migrate to another process, for example, 4760. So I'm just migrating to this thing. So it's non-existent. That happens a lot of the time. So we're going to migrate to 4600. So explore.exe. I think it's going to work. Let's just wait a bit. So migration is successful. Now that we have this successful migration, we can actually exit out of it and close the session. I have sessions like this. I have 2 sessions now. So I'm just going to use, I believe the latter one is the latest one. So I'm just going to use 2. This one is from our first test. And we're just going to use a multi-recon tool. And I believe we have to do, it's local exploit suggester, I believe. Okay. Show options, and we have to set a session. So set session, it's going to be 2. Then we have to run it. So this one should enumerate through all the possible exploits. So it's just collecting them from its own database, and it's going to try and see if something is applicable to our sort of application. In the meanwhile, you can't really do anything. So you might try to, look through the site one more time if you can upload different files, or if it changes anything of this, or you can try to use some other thing. I'm just going to wait as, I'm already there almost. One interesting thing is, well, I didn't find it myself, but we can look at the console history. If this is done, I'll try to, actually we can use it here. We can actually go to, it's in users, and it's going to be in Tony, why, it's not autocomplete, is not enabled, it's so annoying. Roaming, and then we have Microsoft, Windows, PowerShell, and it would be great if there was autocomplete. PS read line, and then there's going to be console host history.txt. I think this is the one. And you can actually see that they added a printer. It's called Rico. I'm not sure what a Rico printer is, but this is version 4.23. If we go back to our other thing, you can see it tried some exploits, and it's saying like these are the ones that it's found. So I'm seeing it appears to be vulnerable or is vulnerable, so you have to do some more research into it. And here we have the target appears to be vulnerable. Rico driver actually has full permissions. Seems great. This might be some build which is interesting. This is also interesting. Like these are generally more interesting than the other ones, but I'm just gonna try to use Rico. So search Rico, and it's gonna show you two. I forgot what the one we wanted to use. Rico driver prefask. So we're just gonna use one. And I think we can just run this as we're already on the session. Maybe. Or do we have to set the payload as well? Exit func session is current setting. I think it's set. Oh, okay. Set lhost to ton 0. That should be changed. Set session. I think it's, what was the session again? Sessions set session 2, I believe. Oh, of course, I almost forgot the payload which we want to inject. So x64, because we want to get a connection back, you have to sort of choose what kind of TCP or like whatever payload you want. I'm just gonna run this. I think this is the good one. So this started its own reverse TCP now, and it's listening for itself, and it's setting it staged. And there we go. It was actually quite easy. So you can see you are sort of the user you want. If we go into a shell, we can actually go to cd/users and just go to administrator, cd administrator, and then we can type into his desktop, and you can type the root.txt. So this was actually the machine itself. It wasn't that hard, but it was just that there were some steps which I'm not sure if I can figure out on my own if I don't have enough time. But I think essentially you will get here, right? So this was pretty much the machine.